हेलो एवरीवन एंड वेलकम टू अनदर लाइव सेशन ऑन जीके। और आज हम ट्रांजिशन करने वाले हैं एंशिएंट इंडिया से मीडिएवल इंडिया की ओर। तो सबसे पहले कुछ फंडामेंटल्स जान लेते हैं बिफोर मूविंग ऑन टू बेयर फैक्ट्स। सो एंशिएंट इंडिया से जब ये जो पार्टीशन किया हुआ है बिटवीन एंशिएंट पीरियड एंड मीडिएवल पीरियड, तो इसमें जो प्राइमरी डिफरेंस है इज दैट ऑफ डिसेंट्रलाइजेशन। एंशिएंट इंडिया में जो कंट्रोल था, जितने भी एम्पायर्स थे, ट्रूली एम्पायर्स एग्जिस्ट एंशिएंट इंडियन हिस्ट्री के टाइम पे ही एग्जिस्ट कर रहे थे। एज वी मूव टू द मीडिएवल पीरियड, तो ये सेंट्रलाइजेशन खत्म हो जाता है। जैसे कि हमने एंशिएंट इंडिया में बात की, द फर्स्ट एम्पायर मगध बिकेम द फर्स्ट इंपीरियम ऑफ इंडिया, मगध जनपद। उसके बाद गुप्ताज आए, जिनका एम्पायर, जिनका टेरिटोरियल एक्सपेंस वाज एज ग्रेट एज दैट ऑफ एम्पायर अशोक। लेकिन जैसे ही हम मीडिएवल इंडिया की ओर बढ़ते हैं, तो वी रियलाइज दैट there is the development evolution of this feature called सामंतवाद, या फिर जिसे इंडियन वर्जन ऑफ फ्यूडलिज्म भी बोला जा सकता है। फ्यूडलिज्म फ्यूडलिज्म के अंदर या फिर सामंतवाद में क्या होता था कि एक कोर रीजन का किंग ही अटैक्ड हिज नेबरिंग किंगडम्स, लेकिन नेवर यूज टू एनेक्स देयर टेरिटरी, यानी कि उनकी टेरिटरी को अपनी टेरिटरी का पार्ट नहीं बना रहा होता था। रादर जिस भी किंग को एक कोर रीजन के किंग ने हराया, उसको ट्रिब्यूटरी प्रिंस बना लेता था और री इंस्टेट कर दिया जाता था। जो काम अलेक्जेंडर द ग्रेट ने पोरस के साथ किया, पोरस हु वाज सिचुएटेड ऑन द बॉर्डर ऑफ इंडिया, तो आफ्टर अलेक्जेंडर डिफीटेड द किंग पोरस, उसने उसको री इंस्टेट कर दिया, वापस गद्दी पे बिठा दिया। एंड पोरस देन सपोर्टेड हिम विथ मेन एंड रिसोर्सेज। तो वही चीज हम देखेंगे, इट बिकेम अ फीचर ऑफ मीडिएवल इंडियन पॉलिटी एज वेल। बेसिकली किसी एक एम्परर का कंट्रोल नहीं, रादर सामंतों का कंट्रोल हो जाएगा। और उस किंग के दरबार में जो भी किंग, जैसे कि हर्षवर्धन जिसकी मैं बात करना चाह रहा हूं, हु इज द पिनेकल, हु इज द रिप्रेजेंटेटिव ऑफ मीडिएवल इंडियन पॉलिटी इज इन नॉर्थ इंडिया, इज किंग हर्षवर्धन। और इस हर्षवर्धन के दरबार में बहुत सारे सामंत बैठा करेंगे, बहुत सारे ट्रिब्यूटरी प्रिंसेस बैठा करेंगे। और इसी से हम जानेंगे कि अब जो पॉलिटी है वो शिफ्ट हो चुकी है एंशिएंट इंडिया से मीडिएवल इंडिया में। दूसरा फीचर जो मीडिएवल इंडिया का है वो ये है कि मीडिएवल इंडिया को एक बहुत ही डार्क और कंफ्यूजिंग टाइम माना जाता है। कंफ्यूजिंग बिकॉज देयर वर अ नंबर ऑफ रीजनल एम्पायर्स। दैट रीजनल एम्पायर डेवलप्ड बिकॉज any king ruled the core area. If we see the plains, we can divide them into four regions. This region, the central Gangetic plains or the Indus plains, the Awadh and Allahabad plains, and आप देख रहे हैं सेंट्रल रीजन में गंगा यमुना दोआब रीजन में न्यू दिल्ली भी आता है। एंड देन देयर वर द लोअर गैंजेटिक प्लेन्स। सो what was happening is that if the king situated here attacks this region or this region, he will only demand tribute and he will ask the defeated, the vanquished ruler to be a part of his court. And whenever the necessity arose, जब कहीं और अटैक करना हो या फिर किसी के अगेंस्ट डिफेंड करना हो, then he will summon the neighboring prince or the neighboring king and ask for his resources, his men, his military, his arms and ammunition. So this is what is different between ancient India and medieval India. Same feature will occur in southern region as well. जैसा कि हम जानते हैं, there were Pandyas in this region. There will be the Pandyas of Madurai. Pandyas of Madurai means Madurai used to be their capital. Then there will be the Cholas and Pallavas of Kanchipuram. Then there will be some kings in the northern Deccan, central Deccan, and lower part of Konkan coast. This region was majorly empty. It served as a barrier between North India and South India. And another feature of medieval India was that with the onset of medieval India or the medieval times, what happens that the hegemony of North India, hegemony यानी कि एक छत्र राज जो नॉर्थ इंडियन किंग्स का, भले ही वो एम्परर अशोक हो या फिर समुद्रगुप्त, कुमारगुप्त, ये गुप्ता रूलर्स हो, ये these were the people dominating over entire India. लेकिन with the onset of Chalukya dynasty, Pulakeshin, who will defeat Harshvardhan, no king from North India will try to conquer or venture into southern part of India, and that is how southern India will develop its own polity. It will come into prominence. So now let us look at what was going on. तो जैसा कि मैंने बताया आपको, there is a certain pattern amongst the confusing mass of all the kings and different regions and different dynasties. There is a certain pattern to be observed. तो नॉर्थ इंडिया में आप देखिए, जैसा मैंने 4 पार्ट्स में डिवाइड किया, alluvial lands यानी कि the fertile lands drained by rivers like गंगा, ब्रह्मपुत्र, इंडस, यमुना, तो इसको आप डिवाइड कर सकते हैं exactly 4 smaller parts में, lower Gangetic basin, middle Gangetic basin and lower Ganga Yamuna Doab and Agra Delhi region. Then you have Gujarat and Orissa. As we saw, they form an intermediate or buffer zone. Then these fertile plains of Chhattisgarh, drained by rivers Narmada and Tapi, they will serve as the buffer zone. Vindhya and Satpura mountains, they were, so to speak, quite unsurmountable because the jungles were dense and there were no means of communication. There was a lot of danger of wild animals, dacoits and such other features. छत्तीसगढ़ को हमने देखा एंशिएंट टाइम्स में दक्षिण कौशल भी कहा करते थे. फिर विदर्भ रीजन, दैट इज द एरिया इन प्रेजेंटली इन महाराष्ट्र, नागपुर के आसपास. नागपुर is also the second capital of Maharashtra. Many of you would only know that Mumbai is the capital of Maharashtra, but Nagpur becomes another capital of Maharashtra because people doubt that जब जो भी legislators हैं वो अगर उनके रीजन से इतना दूर बॉम्बे में असेंबल होंगे तो उनकी बातें नहीं सुनी जाएंगी. इसीलिए नागपुर is also another region to take care of the drought prone region of Vidarbha. Malwa Plateau around Ujjain. This region is known as the Malwa Plateau. So these are the subdivisions of medieval Indian polity. Southern highlands में Deccan lava trap region around Aurangabad and Paitan. Lava trap. अब इसको ट्रैप क्यों कहा जाता है? I would like to share with you. I have already discussed in the class on geography, but this trap does not mean जिसको हम शिकंजा समझते हैं, ये वो ट्रैप नहीं एक्सप्रेस कर रहा होता. This trap is a Dutch word which means steps. So there is a step-like formation, steps सीढ़ियों के जैसा in a flowing format. तो जो इसका स्लोप है इस रीजन का, that is from west to east. That is why what we see is that most of the rivers, they are flowing from west to east except for Narmada and Tapi or Tapti. These are the only two major rivers that are flowing westward, other than some minor rivers like Mandavi or Bharatpuzha in Kerala. But majority of the rivers, they flow from west to east. That is why Deccan lava trap. Then central region around Hyderabad, Manyakhet, Bidar and Kalyani. These will be the capital of different dynasties. Bijapur or Vijaypur and Kalyani, and another region will be Mysore, where Hoysalas and Tipu Sultan will be based in modern times. East Coast के subdivisions will be Krishna Godavari Delta, Tondai Mandalam around the present day Madras, जहां पे Pallavas were situated. So today our primary task is that we get familiarized with these terms, we get familiar with these terms, so that we can talk about whatever their exploits were, whatever their cultural contributions were. इन चीजों के बारे में हम बात करेंगे, but only once we are familiar with the timeline, with the regional division, and the center around which different dynasties were based. So know that Tondai Mandalam initially used to be the capital of Pallavas. Chola Mandalam in the Kaveri Delta, and Pandya Mandalam, or the region of Mandal means the circle, the effective region around which a dynasty ruled. So Pandya Mandalam was situated around Madurai. Now, we have already discussed a few of the travelers in previous classes, but just so that we refresh our memories, I would like to remind you that Megasthenes, a Greek ambassador in the court of Chandragupta Maurya, and he was sent by Seleucus Nicator, one of the generals of Alexander, who ruled in the northwestern part of India after the departure of Alexander. The book he wrote was known as Indica, and as you already know, he came to India during the Mauryan times. Then Fahian is a very important traveler because he visited the court of Harshvardhan. He also eventually converted Harshvardhan to Buddhism, who was initially a devout Shaivite. Not Fahian, but Harshvardhan was a Shaivite. And Fahian will stay at his court for a number of years and end up converting him to Buddhism. So he came from China, and it is, sorry, not Fahian, but it was Huan or Xuanzang who came to Harsha's court. Fahian visited India during the Gupta times, and his book is known as Record of the Buddhist Kingdoms. It is Xuanzang who we also call Huan, very very important traveler, और इन्हीं की लिखी हुई किताब सीयू की, जिसका मतलब होता है रिकॉर्ड ऑफ द वेस्टर्न वर्ल्ड, तो चाइना से वेस्ट की तरफ जितने भी किंगडम सिचुएटेड हैं उनके बारे में ये डिटेल करता है. एंड इट इज थ्रू हिज राइटिंग्स that we get a glimpse of Harshvardhan's empire, and he will stay in India for a prolonged duration of 15 years. Then we have Al-Biruni. Al-Biruni was part of Mahmud of Ghazni's court. Part of the court of Mahmud of Ghazni, coming from Persia. The book he wrote was known as Kitab al-Hind, and the time period during which he existed was the 11th century, that is 1000 AD or 1000 CE onwards. I hope you know the concept of these datings. 11th century का मतलब है 1001, 1002 up to 1099. Then we have Marco Polo, who was a visitor from Italy, and his book is known as The Travels of Marco Polo. Then we have Ibn Battuta, who came from Morocco. His book is known as Rihla, and the time during which he visited was 1333 to 1342. Ibn Battuta, incidentally, was also appointed as a Qazi by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. Muhammad bin Tughlaq is a very important historical figure. बहुत सारे नए टाइप के एक्सपेरिमेंट्स, जैसे कि शिफ्टिंग द कैपिटल फ्रॉम दिल्ली टू central India. He will also carry out an experiment in currency, that rather than using gold and silver coins, because there will be a cash crunch, he will shift to copper coins, but this experiment too will fail. He tried to shift his capital from Delhi to Devagiri, which was the capital of Yadavas. Devagiri. Further, we have these travelers like Abdul Razak, who also came from Persia. The name of his book is a little long. And he visited for a very short duration, 1443 to 1444. Then we have Athanasius or Anastasia Nikitin, visiting from Russia. And his book will be known as Journey Beyond the Three Seas. Black Sea, Aral Sea, Caspian Sea. These were the seas across which he will travel, and that is why the name of his book is The Journey Beyond Three Seas. The time period of his visit is 1470 to 1474 CE. Then Duarte Barbosa, Domingo Pace. So you see that these are visitors from Portugal, and they start visiting starting the early 1500s or the 16th century. Why? Because, as you might already know, in the year 1498 CE, which is a landmark year because Vasco da Gama will reach Calicut on the western coast of India, and that is how Portuguese expedition will begin. Portuguese empire will be established in India, not an empire, small enclaves, but yes, Portuguese emerged as world rulers during the 16th century, and we will have some Portuguese enclaves. आज के डेट में वो गोवा तक सीमित है, but at that point of time there will be a world power, and that is why we will have so many. These are only two, but there will be other travelers, not so significant, who will visit India. Then Gupta Empire. Now, Gupta Empire forms part of ancient India. However, some important facts, like it will be in Samudragupt's Prayagraj or Allahabad as we know it, प्रशस्ति का मतलब होता है commendation. So basically, on one of the Ashokan pillars, his court poet, the court poet of Samudragupta, known as Hari Sen, will write glowing tribute, glowing poems of Samudragupta's exploit, about how brave a conqueror he was, how he never lost a battle, how he was equally proficient in playing the veena as he was in wielding the sword and the bow and arrow. So, इसी Allahabad Prashasti में we see that there was something known as Pratyant Nripati. Pratyant Nripati, जिसका मतलब होता था border kings. Border kings. The kings on the border regions of the Gupta Empire, and it will be these border kings or Pratyant Nripati who will, during Harsha's time, become the Samant. As the centralized control will diminish, then these Pratyant Nripatis or border kings will try to assert their dominance and will become the Samant or tributary kings of the Harshvardhan Empire. Then Guptas themselves were initially subordinates of Kushanas. Their territory was divided into Bhukti, Vishay and Gram. These are the different subdivisions of ancient Indian polity. Then you must know which were the Gupta kings. It begins with Shrigupta, who was not an emperor but only referred to as Maharaj. Then we have Ghatotkach. Then begins Chandragupta's empire in 319 AD or CE, Common Era. Then comes Samudragupta. After that, we have Chandragupta II. Then he will be followed by Kumar Gupta, who will order the construction of Nalanda University. Even these Guptas, they were based in Pataliputra. So we see that the first empire that begins with Magad will continue till the time of Guptas for some 800 years. It is after the Guptas during the medieval time when Harshvardhan will become king that the seat of empire will shift from Pataliputra to eastern India, not eastern, western India, in Kannauj. So Kannauj will become the seat of empire, and therefore this will give an impetus to the eastern part, the kings, the strongmen in the east, to form their own empire, which will first be formed by the ruler known as Shashank, who will be a bitter rival of King Harshvardhan. There are a lot of stories that he kidnapped Harshvardhan's sister Rajeshri. He also murdered his elder brother Rajavardhan, and it was during these tumultuous times that Harshvardhan will rise to the occasion and become one of the very celebrated kings in India. Then, during the Gupta times, mathematics was flourishing. The reason why it is known as Golden Age, because different trades, crafts, science, art, these will be flourishing. Aryabhat and Varamihir. Aryabhat writing books like Aryabhatiya, Arya Siddhant. Then Varamihir, he will write the book known as Pancha Siddhantika, or a compilation of the past 5 principles, book of principles, which were Romaka Siddhant, Polis Siddhant, ascribed to Saint Paul. Romak, as you can make out in this name, the principles or the books or the principles of astrology written in the Roman Empire or in the Roman region. Then Pitamaha Siddhant, or the grandfather. So Varamihir will make a compilation of all these books on astrology, Surya Siddhant, and he will also write another book known as Brihat Samahita. Brihat Samahita, which will contain principles of different crafts like Ayurveda and botany, nomenclature, taxonomy. Such things will be contained in Varamihir's Brihat Siddhant. Then in terms of literature, we have Amar Simha, who will write Amar Kosh, which is about Sanskrit lexicography, and it contained words of Sanskrit. Then we have Hari Sen, as I already told you, who wrote the famous Allahabad Prashasti for Samudragupta's exploit. Kalidas, Shakespeare of the East. Then we have Vararuchi, Sanskrit scholar, and he will also write the first text on Prakrit grammar known as Prakrit Prakash. Then we have Vaishakh Dutt, whose book very famous, Mudra Rakshas. Mudra Rakshas. It is through this book that we get to know a lot of historical facts regarding how it was that Chanakya vowed to avenge his disrespect caused by the Nandas, and with the help of Chandragupta Maurya, he will end up destroying their empire and establishing Chandragupta Maurya as the new emperor. Then temple architecture was also flourishing during this period, exemplified in the Kankali Devi temple, Dashavatar temple, Devgarh temple. These different temples will be constructed, and a new form of architecture, structural temples, will be built. इससे पहले cave temples बनाए जा रहे थे, and that too majorly dominated by Buddhist religion, but Hindu temples start during the Gupta period as proper structural temples. So this is the reason why it is known as the golden age of India. Now, यहीं से फिर शिफ्ट होते हैं हम हर्षवर्धन और उनके सामंत चक्र के बारे में जानना शुरू करते हैं. तो similar in dimension to the Gupta Empire but different in internal structure. क्या difference था? While the Gupta Empire was highly centralized, as we have already talked about, हर्षवर्धन का जो empire होगा, it will be dominated by the circle of Samantas known as सामंत चक्र. अब इस सामंत चक्र के डेवलपमेंट के और भी कुछ रीजंस हैं, जैसे कि after or the reason why Gupta Empire came to an end was because of the Hun invasion. Huns, one of the famous Huns is Attila the Hun, barbaric people who will loot and plunder all across Europe. They will also come to India, and it will be because of them that the energy, the might of Guptas will be sapped, and there will be a political vacuum. And in that political vacuum, ultimately, Harshvardhan rises. Now, when this political vacuum arises, तो जो Silk Route का trade है, कोई भी Silk Route का trade will go down, and therefore tax collection will reduce, cash economy will reduce. कैसे claim कर सकते हैं ये बात? क्योंकि हर्षवर्धन के टाइम की जब आर्कियोलॉजिकल डिस्कवरीज होती हैं, तो पता चलता है कि उस टाइम पे कॉइन्स बड़े ही कम पाए जाते हैं. तो this becomes one of the indicators of saying that cash payments had reduced, the Silk Route trade had reduced, because of which tax collections had reduced, and there was no way for the king to pay in cash to his army or to his other samantas. That is why, or to his ministers, इसीलिए सामंतवाद का concept भी आएगा, in which different officials, different ministers, they will also demand कि हमें भी put us on equal stature of border as that of border kings. And lack of cash payment will be one reason. Then another idea which will take root during this time will be that prestige of any king like Harshvardhan. Prestige depends on the largeness or size of the सामंत चक्र. तो जितने ज्यादा सामंत आपके दरबार को अटेंड कर रहे हैं, उतनी ही ज्यादा आपकी रेस्पेक्ट होगी. इस कारण से भी सामंत चक्र का कॉन्सेप्ट इट टुक रूट इन इंडिया, एंड देयरफॉर there comes a difference between the internal structure of medieval Indian polity and ancient Indian polity. So the central areas around the Doab matlab land drained by two rivers, Ganga and Yamuna, Kannauj and Prayagraj, will be firmly under Harsha's control. So this region will be firmly under Harsha's control, but beyond those regions, he will of course defeat the kings, but his core region, the region where his control extends, will only be limited to this region. Whereas when it was the Gupta Empire, their control extended over a wide region like this. So one of the kings whose name we know and who was ruling in the Magad region was Purnavarman of the Maukari dynasty. Harsh himself belonged to the Pushyabhuti dynasty. Pushyabhutis of Thaneshwar or Sthaneshwar. So it will be the help it will be with the help of these kings like the Mokhari dynasty that Harsh will be able to rule his empire. Now, Bengal was divided between Harsh and his ally Bhaskar Varman of Kamrup. Kamrup was the ancient name of what is today Assam. And before being divided, he will be troubled by the ruler of Bengal who was known as Shashant. बंगाल को उस समय गौड़ नाम से जाना जाता था. Then, as we have already talked, the institution of Samant will be the main innovation which will distinguish ancient Indian polity from medieval Indian polity. See, originally these were neighboring rulers of the adjacent territory, Pratyant Nripati, border kings mentioned by Samudragupta in his Prayagraj Prashasti. So, Samant का मतलब हुआ a subjected but reinstated. The reinstated king is under the control of the king who has already defeated him, and now that defeated king, he has been reinstated, but he must attend the court of the king who defeated him. सामंत चक्र, ट्रिब्यूटरी प्रिंसेस, तो इनके लिए जो टाइटल्स यूज किए जाते थे वो महासामंत, महाराज, महादंड नायक, फील्ड मार्शल, कुमार अमात्य, प्रिंसेस जो कि प्रिंसेस ऑफ रॉयल lineage. They will also be made governors of different princes. उपरिका, कमिश्नर, आज की डेट में जैसे हम कमिश्नर जानते हैं, उपरिका, विषयपति, हमने देखा विषय, भुक्ति, इन सब अलग अलग डिविजन्स में गुप्ता एम्पायर को डिवाइड किया जाता था, और उन्हीं के रूलर्स, उन्हीं के जो एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव हेड्स थे, उनके लिए उपरिका, विषयपति, महाप्रतिहारा, प्रतिहारा का मतलब है गेट कीपर जनरल, तो महाप्रतिहार, गार्डियन ऑफ द रॉयल गेटवे, यही सारे टाइटल्स इनको दिए जाते थे. जिन किंग को हरा दिया गया, जो भी किंग जितना बड़ा है, जितना ज्यादा उसका रिसोर्स पूल है, इसी हिसाब से उसको ये टाइटल्स दिए जाते थे. और जो कोर्ट के मिनिस्टर्स भी होते थे, अलग अलग मिनिस्टर्स, नाउ दे विल आल्सो, बिकॉज दे आर पार्ट ऑफ द कोर्ट, बिकॉज दे आर पार्ट ऑफ द सेम सर्कल, सो दे विल डिमांड दैट वी मस्ट आल्सो बी कन्फर्ड विद सच टाइटल्स, और विद द कमिंग ऑफ टाइटल्स देयर विल आल्सो बी द ग्रांट ऑफ टेरिटरीज, जागीर, जिसके कारण की सामंतवाद का गठन होगा, चलन प्रचलन हो जाएगा. सो सामंताइजेशन, now when there will not be a centralized control, everyone will be looking after their own interests, so this will gradually erode the power of any empire, any kingdom, and this will give way to many invasions that India started facing, starting Mahmud of Ghazni. तो हर्ष का जो एम्पायर था, हर्षवर्धन का, it existed from 606 to 647, quite a long period, 40 सालों तक का रूल. It is a very long period, and as I already told you, Harsh belonged to the Pushyabhuti dynasty, which was situated originally in Thaneshwar. हर्षवर्धन के बारे में जो मेजॉरिटी टेक्स्ट है, जो हर्ष के टाइम की हिस्ट्री हमें पता चलती है, वो हमें पता चलती है बाण भट्ट की लिखी हुई किताब हर्ष चरित्र से. और जैसा कि हमने ऑलरेडी बात की, जो ट्रैवलर्स, फॉरेन ट्रैवलर्स हैं, तो बाण भट्ट तो उनके कोर्ट पोएट थे, कुछ बातें अच्छी लिखेंगे, सारी ही बातें अच्छी लिखेंगे, क्योंकि he has to please his master. Although Ban Bhatt is considered as a nationalist historian, and he tried to write with as much honesty as possible, but other things that he would not have written, we can get a glimpse of those facts from Yuan Sang's CUET. And another book that you must know by Ban Bhatt, a novella, is known as Kadambari. ये इनकी दूसरी किताब होगी. So Harsh is also known as the last great medieval Hindu king, क्योंकि इसके बाद there will be no such king of Hindu religion who will command or control such a vast territorial area. He was also a patron of Nalanda University, which was founded by Kumar Gupta. Then the symbol of Dharma Chakra used to be the representative of Nalanda University. And Nalanda University के बारे में ये भी जानना जरूरी है कि इट हैड अ 3 स्टोरीड लाइब्रेरी बिल्डिंग, जिसको कि जब महमूद घुरी, महमूद नहीं, मोहम्मद घुरी, महमूद बिलोंग टू गजनी, एंड मोहम्मद घुरी का जो जनरल था, वन ऑफ द जनरल्स, बख्तियार खिलजी, so in the year 1202 AD, he will destroy the Nalanda University, and for 3 to 4 months the library will keep burning. जितनी मोटी उसमें मैन्युस्क्रिप्ट्स, पांडुलिपियां रखी हुई थी, तो उनको आग लगा दी जाएगी. He will destroy the entire library. A grievous injury to Indian culture and knowledge, corpus of knowledge. For 3 to 4 months it will keep burning, this library. Then it was truly a global university. It was a residential university, and श्रीलंका, चाइना और जापान से यहाँ पे स्टूडेंट्स पढ़ने आया करेंगे. ये सारी कंट्रीज बुद्धिस्ट कंट्रीज हैं, तो बुद्धिस्ट कंट्रीज के जितने भी लोग होंगे वो पढ़ने के लिए इंडिया नालंदा यूनिवर्सिटी आया करेंगे. सी, इट वाज अ फ्री रेजिडेंशियल यूनिवर्सिटी डिस्ट्रॉयड बाय बख्तियार खिलजी इन द ईयर 1202. सी, मोखारीज सेंटर्ड अराउंड कन्नौज, पुष्यभूतिज ऑफ थानेश्वर. तो पुष्यभूतिज यहां शिफ्ट हो जाएंगे और मोखारीज को इस जगह पे शिफ्ट कर देंगे टू रूल. देन दिस एरिया वाज रूल्ड बाय द मैत्रकाज. चालुक्याज विल बी इन दिस रीजन. सो द चालुक्य किंग, it is through Huan Sang's book CUET that we know. He mentions it with not with so much candidness, थोड़ा छुपा करके वो बताते हैं about the discomfiture of his patron, that was Harshvardhan. Pulakeshin the second will defeat Harshvardhan, who was also known as सकल उत्तर पथ स्वामी. उत्तर पथ नॉर्दर्न रूट, तो नॉर्थ रीजन के जो किंग है हर्षवर्धन, उनको डिफीट करेंगे. ये बात लिख रखी है ह्यूएन सांग ने अपनी बुक सीयूकी में. एंड यू सी देयर विल बी मेनी मेनी अदर स्मॉलर रीजनल किंग्स, पल्लवास, चेरास, पांड्यास. So these were the different parts into which India will be divided. Now this whole time period, as I told you, will be an era of tripartite struggle. यानी कि अलग अलग रीजन्स के किंग आपस में क्लैश कर रहे होंगे. Sometimes the king of one region will attack the other, meanwhile his neighbor will attack his region. और इसी तरह का स्ट्रगल आपस में इनका कंटिन्यूड रहेगा. जैसे कि from the late 8th century to early 9th century, Gurjara Pratiharas will be those Samantas who will initially have Mahapratihari. ये सारे titles उनके पास होंगे. They will evolve into Gurjara Pratiharas. Then Pala dynasty in the east and Rashtrakutas of the Deccan. तो इन्हीं में वत्सराज होंगे, one of the kings of Gurjara Pratihara dynasty, who will conquer large parts of Rajasthan and northwestern India in the 8th century, that is around the year 783. पाल डायनेस्टी के बारे में क्या जानना जरूरी है? जो बात थॉमस हॉब्स ने सेंट्रल रूल को या फिर एक सॉवरेन की इंपॉर्टेंस बताई थी कि इन द एब्सेंस ऑफ सॉवरेन देयर विल बी एनार्की, वही बात गोपाल और धर्मपाल के केस में भी कही जाएगी कि इस टाइम पे ईस्टर्न इंडिया में आफ्टर द डेथ ऑफ हर्षवर्धन, शशांक, ऑल दीज किंग्स, देयर विल बी अ लॉट ऑफ एनार्की एंड व्हाट विल प्रिवेल इज नोन एज मत्स्य. मत्स्य का मतलब होता है फिश. मत्स्य न्याय और जस्टिस ऑफ द फिश, यानी कि बिगर फिश eats the smaller fish. Might is right जिसके पास ज्यादा पावर है वो कम पावर वाले को सताएगा, परेशान करेगा। इस तरह की एनार्की प्रिवेल कर रही थी। उस एनार्की को ओवरकम करने के लिए कहते हैं कि लोगों ने गोपाल को इलेक्ट किया था। ही वॉज नॉट रूलिंग बाय द अथॉरिटी ऑफ डिवाइन राइट, रादर ही वॉज इंस्टेटेड ऑन हिज सीट बाय द पीपल। एंड इट विल बी गोपाल एंड धर्मपाल हु विल बी द लास्ट bastions ऑफ बुद्धिज्म। इनके जाने के बाद, इनके इस डायनेस्टी के एलिमिनेट होने के बाद, Buddhism will also vanish from India, and it will lead to the dark ages, because there will be no debate, no discussions, nobody will challenge one dominant metaphysics, and Indian thought will become dogmatic, or this will be a great loss to India. Now, Gopal and Dharampal are known for constructing two more important universities: Vikramshila University, situated in eastern India and Bihar, and Odantapur University. Odantapuri University. So these universities will be established by Gopal and Dharampal. Then their sway extended westward of Bengal, and they will clash with Rashtrakuta King Dhruv. तो जैसा कि हमने अभी बात की कि आपस में ट्राईपार्टाइट स्ट्रगल, अलग अलग रीजन के किंग एक दूसरे को अटैक कर रहे होंगे, वही चीज का एग्जांपल है गोपाल धर्मपाल clashing with Dhruv. Now Dhruv will defeat both Vatsraj and Dharampal. Vatsraj son Nagbhat, he will restore the glory of the Pratiharas and recapture Kannauj. So this is what was the structure of medieval India, जिसके कारण कि it becomes a confusing mass. But keep in mind these names, and eventually we will make a timeline which will give you all the details. But first we need to have a mental map कि कौन कौन से kings, कौन कौन सी dynasties, किस तरह की polity was prevailing during these medieval times. So after this we will continue with our class on medieval India on next Thursday. Till then, thank you.